Howdy, it's me.
You gotta redo it.
Hello and welcome to Demigod Debut. I'm Mal, lifelong Percy Jackson fan and #1 Annabeth Chase defender.
And I'm Julie, a Percy Jackson virgin.
And this is a podcast where we are talking through Julie's first time reading The Lightning Thief. All right, so we read chapters 13 through 15, and how'd you feel?
I love me an action scene. Also love that some of it was really short because I forgot to finish reading it on my lunch break. So I was actually reading it when I was supposed to be doing actual work at my job. And so I was like, this is helpful that it's not very long. And I can get it. We have a new boss at work, so I had to look like I was working. So it helped that these were shorter.
It actually helps me look very busy at work sometimes because I will stand, because I've got like a standing desk in my classroom, and I will stand there and I will just like frantically type things into my little Google Doc. And whenever people walk by and like look in the door, it looks like I'm working really hard, and I am, just not on planning lessons. And you know what? It is what it is.
Hey. I need to get it on like Kindle so I can read it on my computer.
Yes.
And so it looks like I'm actually like doing my job. Well, you know what? I have a Kindle. I can probably just get it from the library, like the ebook from the library or something.
Oh yeah, but they don't usually let you keep the ebook for that long, do they? That you had like 2 weeks.
Well, when I looked on like Brooklyn's public library, they had like 7 copies.
That would make sense. You know, there was one point in my teaching career where I had more copies than that out in circulation of this book.
Oh my God, did you?
Yeah, no, our library only had like 1 copy of the series, and it was like checked out a lot of the time, especially because I make it a habit to tell my students every year, like, oh, if you want to be my favorite student, you have to read Percy Jackson. And so it was like a thing that a kid would ask me. They were like, do you have the first one? And then I would like put it on their little desk in the morning, and with a little sticky note that's like, I'm so excited for you to become my favorite student, winky face.
Oh, this is cute.
You know, it was cute. But yeah, at one point I did have, I think, 8 copies in circulation, but
oh my God.
I think I bought maybe 2, and then I stole the rest of them from the lost and found in the school building, because we were a co-located school, so like we were on one floor and then there was a school like below us on another floor, and one of their classes like read it in English class, and so after they finished there were like a bunch of them in the lost and found because like they didn't want it anymore, and so I'd like grabbed a bunch of them after a while, and so I was like, okay, here we go. I mean, I like asked, I was like, can I have these? And they were like, yeah, sure. So then I had a bunch of copies of The Lightning Thief that I was just like peddling to children in Brooklyn. So doing the Lord's work, truly.
Truly.
Okay, well, we've stalled long enough because it's been a minute here. Okay, so chapter 13, I plunged to my death. Oh, you predicted they were going to fall into the underworld.
Yeah.
Was this better or worse than what you predicted? Like,
one, you're stuck in St. Louis, kind of sucks. Like, I think that's worse than the underworld, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, Missouri. Who wants to be in Missouri? I've been to Missouri, and it was like...
Have you really?
Yeah.
Why?
We went to Kansas City.
Did you see a Chiefs game?
No, we saw a Royals game though, because you know we're a baseball family. But
yes,
but this was like peak my brother's Percy Jackson era, and so my parents were like, "Do we drive to St. Louis so that they can see the arch?" And we didn't end up doing it because it's like the other side of the state. But we did consider driving to St. Louis from Kansas City to see the arch because of Percy Jackson. Almost went to the arch, but didn't, basically, is the point of that story. Anyway, so let's talk about some people who actually did go to St. Louis. They spend 2 days on the train, and they aren't attacked, which, as we said last week, is because trains are the ultimate form of travel. And also probably because those Amtrak cops were keeping them safe.
ACAB except for the Amtrak police.
ACAB, ETAP.
I've actually never seen an Amtrak policeman.
Percy is kind of trying to lay low. He said there's a picture that like a tourist took where he's got this crazy look in his eyes and his sword is kind of just a blur, like it could be a baseball bat or a lacrosse stick. And this article also comes with the information that Gabe has offered a cash reward for his capture.
First of all, can I just say something? We don't know that he's done anything. Like, the people don't know, like, that he's necessarily done anything, and they're like, he's a missing person still. He's a person of interest, but like capture, that feels like a very strong word for essentially a 12-year-old boy.
True. True. And I've actually seen people like reference this as like Percy is written as a white boy, but I've seen people like reference this and the way that he's treated as like arguments for like, oh, Percy is actually a person of color. Like he's written this way and like the way that he's treated by the media and stuff by this book, like you can read him as
That's
like
interesting.
yeah, I think it's interesting. And I think like I don't know. It's fun to hear people's interpretations and things, and I do enjoy that particular interpretation. I think it's interesting and adds a different layer to it. So Annabeth says mortal police can never find them. She's correct. Because all the cops in the country are too busy taking up the space on the subway platform in New York. Literally the other day, I was just trying to go down the stairs to get to the downtown train, and there were like 6 cops. There were 6 cops standing there blocking the stairs, and I had to say excuse me like 3 times. And I was like, and then they like look at me like I'm the inconvenience, and I was like,
God, they don't do anything anyway.
stop. No one wants you here. No one wants you here. Ugh, I don't think I've never seen a New York City subway cop doing anything except for
Brutalizing someone who jumped a turnstile.
harassing someone who's like sleeping on the floor in the subway station or giving someone a ticket because they jumped the turnstile. I'm like,
they give white people tickets. They will drag you off the train if you are not white. I saw that. Did you see that video on Twitter of it was and they were like 4 or 5 cops dragging this black guy off the train because he jumped the turnstile.
No.
And he's like hanging on to like the side and they are like all grabbing him. And I'm like, it's $3. Cops don't even pay for the subway themselves. Like, fuck off. It's $3. You're brutalizing someone for $3.
We're really doing a lot.
Meanwhile, they're closing the public libraries on the weekends.
Anyway, back on the train. Percy is kind of spending his time pacing up and down and like looking out the window. He sees a family of centaurs and a lion that is, quote, the size of a Hummer. And are Hummers still a thing?
You never see them around anymore. Because you know why? Because all the douchebags who would drive Hummers now drive Teslas.
So true. So true.
That's what it is.
Okay, so it's a lion the size of a Tesla.
A Cybertruck.
A lion the size of a Cybertruck. And I know I spent all of last episode ranting about how like, oh, they're like they couldn't get they wouldn't have enough money to get all the way to LA with like their train.
Yeah.
Or like they wouldn't have enough money to buy a ticket to get all the way to LA. And I did in fact remember that they only got to Denver, but I like didn't want to spoil that. But I also just like still don't think that they could have gotten all the way to Denver.
2 days. That's a 2-day trip.
Yeah, that's a 2-day trip. That's a 2-day trip. And when I looked it up, the trip from like New York to LA was like $1,000. And I don't believe it. Yeah, so they are just kind of in their seats sleeping, and Percy says he's trying not to drool in his sleep because Annabeth is right next to him. Like, buddy, that ship has sailed. Like, that was the first thing she said to you was that you drool in your sleep. Like, she already knows.
Yeah.
And she's still on this quest with you. Like, you can't play it cool at this point. But Percy can't really sleep because Grover's snoring, and Annabeth asks, who wants your help? Because apparently he's been talking about this dream in his sleep, and he tells her that this dream he's been having with like the voice in the pit, and Annabeth says she doesn't think it's Hades because he always appears on a black throne and never laughs, and she also finds it odd that he would ask Percy to bring the Master Bolt if he already has it. And Percy thinks about the Furies on the bus and how they kept asking him where is it, and Annabeth tells him he can't barter with Hades, even if the kindly ones were not as aggressive as last time. And of course, she doesn't give Percy a straight answer when he asks about last time. And all she says is, let's just say I have no love for the Lord of the Dead, while touching the bead on her necklace with the pine
The
tree.
pine tree. So was Annabeth on the like quest? Well, this is her first quest, is that right? Or her second quest?
So this is her first quest.
Okay. So she wasn't on the quest where Grover failed and then the Thalia turned into a is she the one that turned into a pine tree?
Thalia turned into a pine tree, yeah.
Okay.
So it wasn't a quest where Thalia turned into a pine tree. It was just her trying to get to camp. Kind of same way like Percy had to fight the Minotaur to get to camp. Yeah.
Oh,
So that
okay.
that was when she turned
Okay.
into a tree. So after Annabeth tells Percy he can't barter, Percy asks what she would do if it was her dad, and Annabeth said she'd leave him to rot because her dad has resented her since the day she was born and asked Athena to take her back after she was carried down from Olympus by Zephyr the West Wind. She says when she was 5, he got remarried and they had other kids and tried to pretend she didn't exist. And I feel like Percy is very much approaching like everything Annabeth is telling him from his own like my mother is the best person in the world viewpoint, because he really cannot imagine that somebody's parent wouldn't care about them the way that his mom does. And he tells her about the way that Grover told him that his mom had married Gabe to protect him from monsters. And Annabeth is like, well, that's not what's happening here because my dad doesn't care about me, and my stepmom always treated me like a freak and wouldn't let me play with her kids until she
Mm-hmm.
got the hint that she wasn't wanted and left when she was 7. And I said it like 3 chapters ago when we were talking about the ring on her necklace, but this is the first time that we actually kind of get confirmation because Percy's like, "Oh, the ring must be her dad's." So this is like the second or third time I've done this where I've like been like, "Ah, yes, here's this detail that I have information on," and then I like talk about it, and then it turns out that they didn't actually give us the information about that detail, and I was just over eager. So not that that means anything, but not that this is a spoiler that matters, but I feel like I'm going to continue to do this as we
That's
read.
all right. I have two things about this. One, I called that her dad was a dirtbag from the beginning because he works at West Point. Obvious. Huge clue right there. Two, I am so Percy in this situation because every time I see like these memes and like girls when she figures out she's just like her father or something, and it's all these girls don't have good relationships with the 3 F's: food, father, something else. And I'm like I've had my problems with my parents, but I love my parents very much. We are very affectionate, like loving, like family like unit. Like we always say I love you, we always hug like every single day. And so when I hear about other people's situations with their parents, like I'm like, I cannot relate to this at all. I like again, I've fought with my parents all the time. I do not agree with them on everything, but I'm just like, wow, you guys really grew up in some fucked up homes.
You're like, sucks for you, but I'm
Like,
different.
but I grew up with, I mean, not that like that prevented me from having my own problems, like growing up in a loving household, but I'm just like, Jesus Christ, hug your mother for crying. Life, the bottom line, life is too short to not hug your mom. I'm sorry. Like, go hug your mom. Unless your mom sucks, then maybe don't do that. But if you have an okay relationship with your mom, just go give her a hug. I'm sure she'll love it.
My mom would be like, what do you want?
You you guys are not huggers. You and that was like the worst part about living with you guys. I just wanted hugs all the time, and you guys were not.
I know you had to
I'm
you
like,
had to always be
I was
like,
like,
"Can I have a
I
hug?"
need
But
this.
see, the thing with me though is that I like really do want hugs. I just like don't ask for them, and I'm not going to ever be the one to like give you a hug.
I'm just gonna do that when I see you next. I'm just gonna hug you all the time. I love hugs.
Yeah. Well, okay. I have so many thoughts on the dynamics of the Chase family,
Spoilers.
a lot of which I cannot even say right now because of spoilery things. But also, I went to brunch with a friend yesterday, and I was like talking about what we were gonna cover this week. And I was like, oh, I just have so many thoughts about this. And she goes, you have a lot of thoughts about Annabeth Chase? And I was like, I know, but hey, like, I am who I am and I will not apologize for it.
Exactly.
Anyway, point being, if I ever see Frederick Chase, it is on site. It is on site. Like, that man and I, we have beef. But also, I'm like, yeah, okay. I do recognize that like children are hard to raise. And like, if I kind of like knew this goddess and all of a sudden, like, the West Wing wind is West Wing, that's a show.
I love that show.
All of a sudden the west wind is like bringing me a kid, like, I don't think I wouldn't be prepared for that either. I would be like, okay, no, like, you gotta take this kid back. But also, like, I wouldn't treat a kid like like, if I was well and truly stuck with a child, like, I would not treat that child like garbage. Like, I would not make that child
I'd probably give it up for
right,
adoption,
and I would not
honestly.
make that child feel
Yeah.
so unwanted and unloved that like they run
Oh,
away at the age of 7. Like, ugh,
yeah.
there's like there's a
She's a
serious
baby.
there's a serious amount of like neglect happening here that I'm like not okay with.
Again, military father to be expected. He works at West Point.
That's the red flag. Yeah. I will never be a Frederick Chase apologist. That's all. So, Annabeth says Athena guided her to some friends who helped her get to camp, and then they just like stopped talking about it for the drama and suspense of it all. Um, but you know, you can kind of start putting the pieces together.
Mm-hmm.
Also, like, I have to say, these are the first chapters where the pacing has kind of bugged me, and I don't know if it's because this is the first time that I've spent more than like 2 days reading this book. Because usually you just like cruise right on through,
Yeah.
but it's like the okay, we're having this conversation again. Like, we already kind of had a conversation about her father when we were at camp, and like now we're having this other one, and like she's still not giving us all the information. And like I know that's how like talking to people works, but it's also I'm like, how many times are we gonna do this? I also just like want you to know things.
It's gonna move on
And so I'm
already.
kind of like, ugh, all these details. Yeah. Anyway, so they see the arch from the train, and Annabeth says she wants to do that, build the greatest monument to the gods ever, something that will last 1,000 years. And Percy kind of laughs at her like architect dreams, which is rude. And Annabeth says, yeah, Athena expects her children to build things, not just tear them down like a certain god of earthquakes. Then Annabeth is the one who apologizes and says that like she was being mean, when honestly Percy was
No, I
worse.
think we should make fun of architects. Who does she think she is? George Costanza? Come on. That's a Seinfeld joke.
But also, watch what you say about Annabeth being an architect, because I am the #1 Annabeth Chase defender, and like, she's never done anything wrong.
Listen, she's all right to have dreams, but also like being inspired by the arch is lame. Let's be honest. That thing is not that cool.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And we'll get into some of the uncool stuff of the arch. So,
Get get you know, get inspired by New York architecture. It's way better. Unless you're talking about the Oculus, that thing is an eyesore.
no, the Oculus looks like a giant fish skeleton, and I hate it. Yeah. No. I
Yes.
hate the Oculus.
It looks dumb and it's right by the 9/11 memorial. It's like it kind of takes away from the gravitas. And 9/11 mention right there.
Shit. So Percy asks if their parents ever worked together, and Annabeth says when Athena made the chariot and Poseidon created horses, they had to cooperate. And Percy asks if that means that they can cooperate too, and Annabeth says, I suppose.
Aww. Young love.
The besties are bestieing, and I'm here for it. Yeah, so they, lucky for Annabeth, have a 3-hour layover in St. Louis, so they get to go see the arch. And they go to the museum underneath where Annabeth like bombards them with fun facts. And Percy says, isn't that thrilling? But Grover keeps passing him jelly beans, so he's okay. And yeah, this just kind of like made me giggle. Like, Grover's having to occupy him like he's a toddler or like a dog.
Yeah.
Um, Also, another way that the arch sucks. This museum, like in the bottom of the arch, is all about manifest destiny.
Boo.
And yeah, and the arch is like, oh, it's the gateway to the west. And it's like it's like a monument to manifest destiny. And That doesn't feel
Doesn't age
great.
well.
It doesn't. But maybe we can read it as we're making some sort of commentary on Western civilization. If you look at this as like hey, the gods kind of suck. Maybe this like thing that they're so tied to also is flawed and sucks. But you know. So Percy feels like something is wrong at the Arch and asks Grover if he smells any monsters. And Grover says underground always smells like monsters, so we can't be sure. And Percy asks about he's like, "Hey, Hades has a hat that can make him invisible, right?" And they're like, "Yeah, it can literally make him darkness." And Percy wonders, "How do we know he's not watching us right now?" And Grover says, "We don't." And on that lovely note, they go up to the top of the arch in a tiny elevator car with a woman and a chihuahua. And again, 2005. Don't love the way that Percy describes this woman. It's a little fat phobic,
Yeah.
but 2005. So they get to the top, and Annabeth like continues to just bombard them with fun facts. Um, she's very much me in this situation. I love a fun fact. This was me when I was in Greece, when I was like, hey, this is just like Percy Jackson. This is like Percy Jackson. You remember this Percy Jackson? And like she and I are the same. Um, Speaking of how Annabeth and I are the same. So you know how I was doing that like live dating show?
Yes. OMG, how did it go?
Okay, yes. So for context, I did this like live dating show where I was like one of the three contestants that like this person was having to choose between to like go on a live on stage date. And so I did in fact end up winning. I did in fact go on a live on stage date with this girl. There will not be a second not live date. Because like we exchanged numbers, but I was kind of like
Ooh.
not necessarily feeling it. I really thought that she was gonna pick this other girl because I thought that they just had way more in common. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, she didn't. And
You're a catch, Mal.
I I am a catch. I am a catch, but I also like I wasn't like the answers that like she was giving, I wasn't loving. I wasn't like super into it.
Mm-hmm.
I was just there to have a good time and also like entertain all my friends who were sitting in the front row. Because like there were
Yeah.
like six of my friends just sitting there in the front row. But anyway, the point of the point of the story is they asked like one of the questions we had to answer was what TV show character do you think you're most like? And so I like started giggling and I could see like the front row kind of start giggling and I was like, "Oh, the entire front row knows what I'm about to say right now." And so the like
Mm-hmm.
MC who is friends with my roommate like gives the mic to Leora, my roommate, and and Leora's like, I have $200 on Annabeth Chase." And so then I got to talk about Percy Jackson. So question number 2,
Beautiful.
I did bring up Percy Jackson, and
Of
just
course.
because of who I am as a person. And, but I don't know. I also think as I've gotten older, I do become more Percy in some ways, but that's a separate thing. Um, yeah, so I brought up Percy Jackson in the second question of this game, and I still got the date. So,
Boom.
boom. But she did say, as soon as I said it, she was like, "Oh, I've never read it or seen it." I was like, red flag.
Wait, I haven't seen it. Is that a red flag for me?
Yes, but you're doing something about it. You're reading The Lightning Thief.
Yeah, okay.
You have a Percy Jackson podcast. Like you're doing more than a lot of people.
Yeah, I have oh God, I have a Percy Jackson.
Sure do. Okay. Where even were we?
He's describing the woman, very fat phobic.
Oh,
Chihuahua equals
yes.
demon.
Describing the woman in a very fat phobic way. Then they have to leave because it's closing and there isn't room in the elevator, so Percy stays behind with like the woman and the chihuahua and several other people. And the Percy like realizes that this woman has a forked tongue like a snake, and she calls the Chihuahua her son. And when Percy asks about it, she's like, no, it's a chimera. And the chimera starts growing until it's tall enough to be touching the roof and has the head of a lion, the body and hooves of a goat, and a serpent for a tail. What a
Yes.
delightful creature. Um, and so you had an echidna question.
Oh yeah, I didn't. What the hell is that? That was my question.
A great question. So Echidna is the mother of monsters. And I mean she says this in the book, like right before Percy asks, isn't that a kind of anteater? And then she tells him he has to die for that comment. But so she is like a mythological person, and she is this like half woman, half snake creature who is
Isn't that just a regular woman? Sorry, I had to.
so in mythology, it's kind of unclear where Echidna came from, like who her parents are. But she is said in mythology to be like the mate of Typhon, who's this monster who also has snakes for legs. Because one thing about the Greeks, they love to, number one, combine creatures, and number two, there's always snakes. Like Medusa has snakes, Typhon has snakes, Echidna has snakes. Like there's a lot of snakes.
Snakes are just
There's a lot
badass.
of snakes. Yeah, snakes are cool as hell. Um,
Wait, did you say snakes for
yeah,
legs? How do you walk on snakes? They're like so,
it's a great
you know.
question. It's a great question. Also, in there's at least one reference to Echidna having like the body of a snake that like ends in a head. So I really don't know how that works. Like
Ew.
she's got a woman top and then like a second snake head. I don't
They
know.
had to give her boobies.
Yes. Yeah, but so Echidna and Typhon are said to be like the parents of a lot of the monsters in Greek mythology, like some of which you might have heard of. I was trying to pull examples. Like Cerberus, the three-headed dog from the underworld,
Yes.
and like Scylla from the Odyssey, the Sphinx, the Hydra, and like the Chimera that we see her say
Hmm.
is um her child. Um yeah, and so you also asked about Tartarus in your notes. I don't know when you want to get to that.
I still have no, I don't know what that is. So,
Yeah,
like,
I I assume that was
again, the
in
mythology backbone is not there.
yeah. Well, it also like wasn't there for me the first time, and I think that's why I was so shook by so many things that happened. Because I was like, what are they referencing? And then I learned like, oh, we are like play by play doing the myths. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, like, but I don't know. I can think of just a lot of things where I'm like, oh, that's like one of the labors of Hercules, or like all these things. It's just I don't know, kind of cool. Um, but yeah, so I guess in reference to the like dog tag, I guess that the Chimera was wearing,
Uh-huh.
being like, if found, dial Tartarus. So Tartarus is kind of interesting because it's both like a deity and a place. Like Tartarus is kind of one of the primordial deities, kind of thought to be there when like the world was created, and just kind of this because there's like several primordial deities. You've got like Nyx, who's the goddess of the night, and you've got like Gaia, who's like the earth, and then and Tartarus is kind of like the underworld.
Hmm.
But mostly when they mention it in this series, they're referencing like it as a place, and it's kind of like super hell in the underworld. So it's where like the Titans are imprisoned after they were overthrown by the gods, and like basically the Olympians just put anyone there who like is a threat to them, and that's kind of
Okay.
like their prison. So it's just kind of super hell. So like they said in the first chapter, like when Zeus threw his father and like cut him into pieces, he cast him into Tartarus. And so that's kind of where all the real fun people hang out. And yeah, kind of from what I can gather, Rick Riordan took some liberties in like making his the rules of the underworld in these books like very neat and tidy, which makes sense given like kids' books, but I'm a little unclear on who would be picking up the phone
Hmm.
if you like actually called the extension on that dog tag, because I just can't think who would be picking up that phone. But that's a separate point based on what I know about Tartarus in kind of this universe. But anyway, um, so back to our fight scene. So the Chimera kind of charges, and Percy's like, I have to keep the monster away from this like mortal family who's also still up here. And the Chimera breathes fire, and it burns a hole in the side of the arch, and Percy tries to like slash at it with his sword, but it like bounces off and flies out the hole, and just not going well. And Percy also forgets about the snake tail, and it like bites him in the calf, and oh no, he's been poisoned, and he doesn't know if his sword's gonna return to his pocket, or if it like fell too far, or even if he's gonna live that long. And Echidna's like, man, they just really don't make heroes the way that they used to. And she says, why don't you jump and like prove that you're a son of Poseidon? And Percy's like, no, I would die. And Echidna's like, you have no faith. Can't really blame you. Gods suck. And Percy thinks about how he's so sure that his dad came to visit him as a baby, and he jumps out of the arch into the river. And here's a piece of lore that I am very excited to share with you. So, for years, the fans of Percy Jackson have been speculating how young Mr. Jackson made this jump, because the arch is actually hundreds of feet from the Mississippi River. And there is also like a road that runs in between. Like, it would not be physically possible for him to jump out with enough force to like make it into the river.
Yeah.
And when asked about it, the author was just kind of like, I don't know, I thought it was closer. I thought the arch like went over the river. So like,
I love it. How did that get past the editor?
I mean, is anybody editing this like, this isn't physically possible because the arch is too far away? Like, there's a lot of ridiculous things. There's a lot of ridiculous things happening in this book that you just kind of have to, yeah, there's several things that I have looked at and been like, how did this get past an editor? Also, I think Rick Riordan should hire me as the editor because I remember stupid little details, and I love a stupid little
So
detail.
true.
There's also like characters that are described as having like eyes that are one color in one book and then another color in another book, or like lots of silly little details. But yes, not really physically possible to jump into the Mississippi River from the arch, but
They're just gonna move it closer, right? They just fudge the numbers a little bit. It's a book about the children of gods. I don't really think we're looking at it for realism.
yeah, that's kind of like when, because I had like a watch party when the first two episodes drop, and there's like a scene where they show like a lizard, and my roommate, shout out to Leora, so she was like, she's like, that kind of gecko doesn't live on Long Island. She's like, why is that there? And one of her friends was like, it's a story about the children of the gods. Like, I'm pretty sure like they can have any kind of lizard they want. Like, this is where you're like, this is where you can't suspend your disbelief. Like, no.
Pick your times.
Yeah. I also, because I've been trying to make all the monsters and stuff we meet like figure out an argument as to how they're queer coded, and I did have a really hard time with this one. The best I could come up with was that
All chihuahuas are gay. Easy.
it's a little known fact, all chihuahuas are gay. But also I was thinking about how I do know quite a few gay people who like have a pet that they treat like their child, and I don't know if it really counts because the chimera actually is like Echidna's child, but oh, I'm like, yeah, gay people do that. I don't know. So that it took us like 7 years to get through chapter 13, but you got
We
any
still have 2 more chapters. I have so much to do tonight. We gotta
we gotta pick it up. We gotta pick it
Yeah.
up. Well, 14 is short. I wrote like literally
Yeah,
2
yeah.
paragraphs. So
I just want to talk about McBarge.
yeah, and that's
all I want to talk
that's
about.
when we'll get into your big barge. Okay. So we talked for a long time on that one. Nothing else to add on 13.
No.
No, great. Perfect. So chapter 14, I become a known fugitive. So this is a really short chapter, so I don't have much, but Percy makes it into the river, and his first realization, he isn't dead, and he doesn't feel poisoned anymore. Second realization, he isn't wet, and he grabs some trash and a lighter and sets a little fire underwater to test this. And you know I love to play with fire, so this I felt really
Yeah.
seen by this because I also would be setting a fire underwater. Throwback to every time you have had to take a candle from me at a restaurant
Yeah.
because I would not stop playing with it. The last thing he realizes is that he can breathe normally underwater, and he also imagines his mom tells him like, Percy, what do you say? And so he's like, thanks, Dad. Percy kind of has a sad boy moment where he's like, I didn't have a chance against that monster. I couldn't protect those people. Like, maybe I should stay down here at the bottom of the river forever with these catfish. And then he hears the woman's voice again telling him, take his sword. Your father believes in you. And this like spirit appears to him and he's like, Mom? But she says she's just a messenger and tells him to go to the beach in Santa Monica. And she tells him not to trust the gifts. That's kind of the important stuff there, but we're gonna get to the important stuff to you. Percy comes back to the surface next to a floating McDonald's. What do you know about the McBarge?
Okay, so this was, I believe it was the second ever floating McDonald's. It was created as part of like the 1987 like World Fair in Vancouver, British Columbia, I believe. First of all, it fucking closed in 2000, so it's not even open at the time this book is written. It's been closed. It was abandoned. Also, I think
Okay,
it's
but also you have to remember that this book was written by a man who doesn't even know how far the arch is from the river.
true, but you can't look up if the McBarge is still open. Also, it was like really ugly looking. It's very like brutalist kind of. I'm probably not using that term correctly. But I watched this YouTube video about and it was like abandoned because it wasn't making enough money. And now it's just like this floating thing on and it's very like 80s like the like you know how everything in the 80s kind of like looked funky like if you imagine like of course like the stereotypical like Starcourt Mall from Stranger Things, like that aesthetic but at a McBarge.
Yes.
But yeah, it closed in 2000, so there's no more floating McDonald's.
Well, it is what it is.
Anyway, I love McBarge.
This book actually takes place on an alternate Earth where the arch is right on the river and also the McBarge didn't close in 2000. Business is booming.
It's booming. Also, that sounds like a fun thing to do, though. Have a McDonald's, like any restaurant on the water sounds like it's going to be fun. But a McDonald's would be great.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
can't believe that wouldn't do well.
Like for 13, I think it was only like 13 years it was open.
Yeah, I can't believe that wouldn't be doing well. Tragic. So when Percy walks up next to the closed,
Abandoned, deserted for years.
abandoned McDonald's, he walks up on a news broadcast talking about an adolescent boy going wild on the observation deck and setting off an explosion. Grover runs up and hugs him, and Annabeth looks like she's trying to be mad, but mostly looks relieved. And Percy fills them in on what happened as they hear another reporter saying that the suspect at the arch might be Percy Jackson, wanted for a New Jersey bus accident. And so they get back on the train and head to Denver. And that's all I have for that chapter. So, any thoughts on like, I don't know, Percy's newfound powers or
Not really. I'm very interested in
anything?
like that the messenger took the form of his mother to give him a trusted message. Um, I presume from his dad. Like that's who sent the message. I kind of want Poseidon to be like this lovesick fool who's like really sad that his like that like Percy's mom, like Sally Jackson, was the love of his life. But I don't think that's true. But I kind of want it I want him to be like down bad for Sally Jackson.
So, chapter 15, a god buys us cheeseburgers. So Percy is sure to specify they have 7 days left till the solstice. He said 8 before, but I didn't mention it. And yeah, he's doing a very good job keeping this deadline fresh and like, because I don't know what day it is. So they're hungry, haven't showered, but Annabeth's like, we need to contact Chiron. So they head to a car wash, they get out the spray gun, and Grover tells him they are IMing, which is not instant messaging, but iris messaging, because the rainbow goddess Iris carries messages for the gods, and if you ask right, she'll do it for half-bloods too. And I know this is something that this man must have been so proud to come up with, because it's just like silly
It's
goofy.
so 2005.
So
By the way,
2005.
IMing. It's
We're
not
IMing,
IMing.
we're iris messaging. But also like it's kind of cool. So they make a rainbow. It's also kind of gay because they make a rainbow. They throw in a drachma and ask for Half Blood Hill, and they get an image that's like the porch of the big house, and Luke is standing there, and Annabeth, of course, is like frantically trying to fix her hair and like make herself look like she's
Girl,
not
it's over.
she's not on
We're
a
about to be
quest, but
sister zoned.
yeah, sure are, sure are. And Luke's like, oh, Chiron's not here. He just takes care of some issues with the campers. And so a car pulls up blaring music, and Annabeth is like, I have to go. And she drags Grover with her. And Percy is talking to Luke alone. Luke says things are tense at camp and that the like feud between Zeus and Poseidon leaked. And so people are taking sides. And a lot of the cabins that start with A are on Team Poseidon, Ares, Aphrodite, Apollo. But then the other cabin that starts with A, Athena, is backing Zeus. And I'm like, why do they all start with A? Um, Not that that really matters, but it was just because I was like, oh, all the ones that start with A are backing Poseidon.
Saturn?
That's kind of cool. And then I was like, oh, but then Athena. Oh, dang it, didn't work.
Saturn destroyed.
Um, Percy tells Luke about their quest, and Luke says it has to be Hades who took the bolt since he was there on Olympus for the winter solstice when the campers were also there for their field trip. Luke says that Hades has this helm, so it has to be him because only somebody invisible could sneak in and steal the bolt. And that they both are kind of like, oh, hang on, wait. And Luke's like, I didn't mean Annabeth. She's like my little sister. Pour one out for Annabeth. Little
Sister
sister's
zoned.
owned.
Yeah.
Um, which he's 19, she's 12. Like she never could be anything but his little sister. Like
Yeah.
the crush on the older cute guy is whatever. Like that's normal. I mean,
It happens.
when I was 12, I had crushes on older people than me, and that's fine. But if he was going to reciprocate those feelings, it would be fucked up.
I'm calling the police.
Yeah, exactly. Especially because no, never mind. Um,
We're not getting into this.
we're not getting into this. So in the stall next to them, the man like screams in terror, and the car like peels out. And I really just need to know what Annabeth did to this guy, because I know it was not Grover that did
No.
whatever to
Oh,
this man.
hell no. Annabelle put the fear of God into this man. Good for her.
Good for her, yes, for sure. And so Luke asks Percy if he's been wearing the shoes, and Percy lies and it's like, yeah, they've really come in handy because he doesn't want to say he gave them to Grover. And the call starts to evaporate, and Luke says, take care of yourself, and to tell Grover, it'll be better this time, and no one will get turned into a pine tree, which
Again.
Luke is just trying to stir the
Yeah.
pot with that
It's
one.
like, remember that one time you failed horribly, Grover? You remember that?
Yeah, remember Grover? Remember that one time? Um,
Remember you almost got this girl killed?
but then
Said she's a tree now, I guess.
yeah, she is indeed a tree.
She's still alive, though, I guess. The tree's
As a
alive, so
tree, yeah.
technically, I guess she's alive.
Well, but you know, you don't want her to be a tree, you want her to be a person. Um,
No, but she's not
yeah.
dead.
Then they don't talk about this. Percy doesn't bring it up. He's like, "Oh, Luke didn't say much," but Annabeth can kind of tell that he's upset. Um, but he's like, "Let's just go get dinner." So they walk into this diner, and the waitress isn't going to serve them because they don't have money. But this biker shows up, and there's a lot of description here that basically just like boils down to he's a big scary dude. But the one detail that always strikes me as strange is that his motorcycle seat looks like
Ugh, like
Caucasian
what kind of
human skin.
serial
I'm like,
killer
what do you
shit
mean?
is this?
What do you mean? Yeah. So basically, big scary guy, lots of weapons. He walks in, everyone like stands up, and then he waves his hand and they all sit down again. And he says their food is on him. He also like threatens the waitress with a knife after he tries to give her drachmas. And Percy wants to start a fight. Annabeth tries to warn him, but the guy's like, nah, I don't mind a little attitude as long as you remember who's boss. And Percy's like, ah, you're Clarice's dad, Ares. And Ares is like, yeah, heard you broke her spear. And Percy says she was asking for it. And he says, yeah, but I don't fight my kids' fights for them. Then he tells him he has a proposition for them, and he needs them to go get his shield at an abandoned water park in town where he left it after a date with his girlfriend. Percy says they aren't interested because they already have a quest, and Ares says he knows all about their quest. Because when the boat was stolen, Zeus sent the A team, all the
Ah,
A gods, Apollo, Artemis, Athena, and Ares, out looking for it. But none of them found it. And he also said he told Poseidon how he thinks Hades may have stolen it to frame Poseidon to start a war. And if they do them a favor, he'll provide them a ride west. And Percy's like, no thanks. So Ares offers him information on his mom, and that gets Percy's attention. Ares vanishes, and Percy's like, forget this, let's go. But Annabeth and Grover are like, no, we have to do this. And Percy's like, why us? And Annabeth's like, well, Ares only has strength, and even strength has to bow to wisdom sometimes. So they go to the abandoned water park. It is called Waterland. So they climb over the fence, and Annabeth starts stealing from the souvenir shop, and so they get a whole new like Waterland wardrobe.
It's abandoned. Why is there stuff still there?
I don't know. That's a great question.
They would clear that
It's
out.
a great question. It's an excellent question, actually. Annabeth and Percy talk about the tea that is the like Ares Aphrodite relationship. Because like Aphrodite is Hephaestus's wife.
Ooh.
And Annabeth says Hephaestus knows about this and one time caught them in a golden net to embarrass them. And so that's why they have to meet in out of the way. So I just want to expose myself here. So when I was like 11 reading these for the first time, I had no idea how to say Hephaestus. Like I was like, I don't know how to pronounce that.
I'm not even gonna try. I'm just gonna let you keep saying it. I'm gonna call him Big H.
And I also like I still don't know how to spell it. Like every single time it appears in this Google Doc, it is red underlined because I did not spell it correctly. But instead of doing, because like sometimes I will read something as just kind of like a like just gibberish, like starts with the right letter.
Yeah.
Did not do that here. I guess I just like picked another word that like also started with H and ended in S and like had a P. So for a long time in my head, this was always hepatitis. So
I love that so much. Appetite. I'm gonna call him that.
hepatitis, god of the
Hepatitis.
forges. And yeah. And like I knew that wasn't right by like the end of middle school, but I still had never said it, like heard anyone say it out loud. And so I was like, hepatitis.
Yeah.
And so it was hepatitis in my head until I was like 15. So it was until like we started learning about the gods in English class and they like listed out all the 12 and like my English teacher said it out loud for the first time and I was like,
That's how you say that word.
thank God. But yeah, I think of that every time. So like I cannot actually take Hephaestus all that seriously because I'm like, hepatitis. I also think like the myths that we're referencing here are super interesting. So first of all, like Hephaestus is super interesting because there's kind of two different versions of him and like how he ended up who he is and like with Aphrodite. And so in kind of one version of Hephaestus' origin story, he's born disabled and so Hera throws him off Olympus and like into the sea because she's like he's
Rude.
yeah, so rude. And then in the other, there's some kind of like fight between Zeus and Hera, and he like intervenes on behalf of Hera, and so Zeus like throws him off Olympus, and this like ends up.
Why do they keep throwing him off?
Yeah, this ends up like making him. Yeah, he sustains some like injury here and like ends up disabled. But like, regardless, he ends up like exiled from Olympus and kind of doing his thing. And then there's this kind of other myth that goes along with that, where he, in his exile, like gifts this golden throne to Hera, and when she sits down on it, she can't get back up, and none of the gods can like get her out, and so and so Zeus, like desperate to get her out, is like, you can have whatever you want, and he is offered or requests like Aphrodite's hand in marriage. There's also a lot of like interesting things that come along with this. Like in some versions, he refuses to come back until like Dionysus gets him drunk and like drags him back on a mule. There's also some versions where he requests to marry Athena, but Athena is a virgin goddess who's like can't, and so then he's like offered Aphrodite instead. Like I don't know. Like I'm not. Like, if they want to have an open relationship, that's great, but it doesn't really feel like Hephaestus wants to have an open relationship.
Wait, it's like those Reddit posts where you see the guy who's like I want an open relationship, and the wife is like, no, but then she reluctantly agrees, and then she's the one who keeps getting all the dates, and he's
Yes,
alone at
exactly.
home. I love that
Exactly.
dynamic so much. So much. It's
It
my favorite thing.
doesn't, I mean, Hephaestus does have kids at camp, so he's at least getting some mortals. Yeah. Aphrodite also has kids at
He's
camp.
sowing his wild oats, if you will. Now, how do gods give birth? Is it like,
That's a great question. The only one that we ever actually get kind of a story for is Athena, and that's like from Annabeth.
oh my God, was Sally Jackson's birth like the worst thing in the world? Like,
I don't have
was it
any
like
idea.
so much worse because like Percy is a demigod?
I don't have any idea.
Oh my God. Wait, if you're pregnant with a demigod, can you get an abortion or will it not work?
It's an excellent question.
Like if you took Plan B, is it just not gonna work?
Well, okay, but the thing with demigods is they are like doubly vulnerable. So like the godly
Mm-hmm.
weapons, don't work on
Yeah.
mortals, and like mortal weapons don't work on like god things, but like demigods are vulnerable to both. So I would imagine that like since those are technically, I guess, mortal things, like they would work. I don't know.
Referring to Plan B as a mortal weapon. I love it.
I mean, is it not?
Oh man. So good. We're talking about the important stuff.
you know, uh, I do feel for Aphrodite because she did not really have a say in this marriage. She was just kind of like offered as the prize, which sucks. Um, and love and war feels like a very iconic combination. Like
All is
they,
fair in love and war.
right. So they make sense. Yeah, so they find the ride that they're looking for, and Percy tells Grover to use the shoes to fly around,
Your
and he
favorite little goat boy. Wait, is he's a goat, right? I can't
um
remember.
he is a goat. Yeah. He tells Annabeth, like, come with me. And she gets real embarrassed. She's like, me? Come on the tunnel of love with you? What if someone
Oh
saw
my
me?
God.
Like, girl, get over yourself. And Percy's like, okay, fine, I'll do it myself. But she follows anyway. And she's like, boys always mess things up, which she's not wrong. In the boat, they find the shield and also a silk scarf, which Annabeth immediately takes away from Percy and is like, stay away from the love magic. The moment Percy like touches the shield, he trips a wire, which then makes the Cupid statues fire their bows, which then start to make a golden net over them. And then they announce they'll be broadcast live to Olympus in 1 minute. And a bunch of metal spiders come out of the walls, which like terrifies Annabeth. So Percy
Oh,
gets the idea to use.
nightmare.
Oh no, such a nightmare. Such a nightmare. Um, like I can handle a bug or a couple of bugs, but like a swarm of bugs, absolutely not.
Hell
Absolutely not.
no.
And this is also kind of a fun little reference to the time that Hephaestus trapped Ares and Aphrodite in a net in the middle of one of their little meetup times and invited all the gods to like come and laugh at them.
These gods are into kinky shit, as we're gonna discover.
For real, like all the
Yeah,
mirrors,
what the hell is that? The bondage? The critters? What are we doing?
something that we mere mortals couldn't understand.
You're so right. We're not ready.
Anyway, so yeah, so Percy's like, we gotta use the water to like get up under this net so that we can get out. And so it works, and they end up kind of going down this ride, and in the end they're gonna like smash into the gates because it's all chained up. And so Annabeth, like, once the spiders all got washed away, now apparently has enough brain power to do like physics equations in her head. Queen shit. And so she figures out like the optimal time to jump, but they like jump too high, and all in all, it's like a terrible disaster. And Percy like turns to the Cupid statues and is like, "Thank you, good night." Show's over, and yeah,
King shit. I loved that line.
yeah, um, yeah. You can probably tell by this summary that I like don't care about the action scenes. I'm like, oh, some things happen. They go down the slide and then they jump over the fence. Um, because this actually is the first time that I have like read this scene close enough to like understand what was happening, because it's always just kind of been in my head as like a yeah, Percy uses the water to go down the slide.
Action.
Yeah. So um fun scene. Fun scene. I knew there were spiders. I just couldn't
Gross.
have
You did
couldn't
not. trigger warned me about
I'm
the
sorry.
spiders. Unbelievable. No, I don't like spiders.
Sorry, but Annabeth is real for
So
the
real.
arachnophobia. Um, yeah, so really I'm just here for the relationships between characters and the way that we're all tied together and all that. Like I can tell you in great detail about like Percy and Annabeth Grover and the way that their relationship change and grow like with each other over the course of this series. But if you ask me about like any battle, I would be like, Percy says something kind of silly goofy or like insults someone and then swings his sword some. Like, um, that's my understanding of any action scene in this series. So anyway, Percy's mad that they got tricked and says we need to have a little talk with Ares. And that's where we end. So how you feeling, bestie?
I liked that chapter a lot. It gave me some insight, which I know I have to explain. Luke on my shit list now. I'm suspicious. He's on my terror watch list.
Interesting.
I now think that he is going to be the friend that betrays Percy because he was so suspicious during the IMing thing. One, how does he know they're in Denver? Percy never says they're in Denver. He doesn't say that. I looked. He does not say they're in Denver. And they buy the tickets after the whole bus fiasco with the stolen dog money, the lost dog money.
But Percy does say like, "Oh, I told Luke pretty much everything." So he probably
that's not written. So I'm suspicious. It's not in the combo. Because he's not like he details essentially the entire conversation. And not once does he mention Denver. So first red flag. Second red flag. When they're talking about, oh, it must like Hades must have stolen it when we were all up there. I was like, oh, Luke was up there. Interesting. Interesting how Luke was also up there. And he's like, oh, I don't mean Annabeth. Annabeth wouldn't have done it. But Luke, would you have? I think he's bitter that his dad doesn't love him as much as Percy's dad loves him or something. Or not that he knew Percy when he stole it, but I think the father figure resentment is going to play a role here. And what I think he sabotaged the shoes somehow. I don't know, but I feel like if Luke is a traitor, he would have sabotaged the shoes somehow. Because he's like, "Are you wearing the shoes? Are the shoes cool? Are the shoes working out good for you?" So the shoes are either gonna get Grover killed or something, or I don't know. But I'm very suspicious of Luke. I do not trust him.
This girl is the nastiest skank bitch. Do not trust her.
Yes. Do not trust Luke. Terror watch list. He's on it.
Okay. All right. Luke is on your terror watch list.
And I would also like to apologize to Grover because I said he was the one that was going to betray Percy last time. I now no longer believe this. Sorry, Grover. You're okay in my book. You little weird goat thing.
Interesting. Anything else?
I have chapter predictions for that.
Cool. So next week, 16 and 17, because
we're only doing 16 and 17.
Great. Because a lot of stuff happens in 16. And I think I'm gonna have a lot to say about 16.
I do have a prediction for 18.
Oh, okay. Well, if you want to give it to us now and then revisit, give it to us as if you're not just talking to me. Give it to me now, and then you can revisit after you've read 16 and 17.
Okay, chapter 16 title. We take a zebra to Vegas. Okay, so before I get there real quick, I said I would really like to see Ares give them one of like those motorbikes that had like a side buggy on it, and that's they have to drive that fucking thing all the way to from Denver. And then I read this and I was like, okay, read this after the above prediction, but I'm sticking with it. It's a zebra striped motorcycle that he one of those little cubbies on the side. I want them to stick Percy in the cubby or something. I think that would be hilarious. Also, what are they going to do in Vegas? Minors, I don't think minors are allowed in casinos.
They can go in, they just can't go to the like gambling part.
But that's like the whole part. Oh, I have another prediction about this one. I think Vegas should be a secret second entrance to the underworld because it's like Sin City, you know? And I'm like, you know how there's that big fucking orb now? That should be the big entrance.
That's the entrance to the underworld.
That creepy fucking orb thing when they turn into like an eyeball or something and it looks so creepy.
Agree.
That's the second.
Agree.
They should bump that one actually up to like
Love
the
it.
main entrance of the underworld, that sphere. Okay, chapter 17. Chapter 17. We shop for waterbeds. Feels like a Poseidon thing, gotta be honest. Waterbed. Also, how they're shopping for waterbeds, first of all. Do you know how fucking expensive a waterbed is? They don't have any money. How are they going to get a waterbed? I don't understand. My friend's mom had a waterbed growing up. It was the weirdest thing ever.
Yeah, I just can't imagine that I would enjoy that. Like, I don't think I would like that.
No, I feel like it's not enough support on your back.
Yeah.
And then chapter 18, Annabeth does obedience school. Annabeth turns into a dog.
You're sticking to that prediction? Yeah, you
may say, yeah, I want her to turn into a dog. If I had to guess, I'm gonna go with beagle. If I had to guess.
Love. Love.
From what I know about beagles, I'm going beagle.
Okay, well, I can't imagine that prediction is going to change. I think you're gonna stick to that one.
I'm sticking to my guns. Annabeth turns into a beagle. Write it down.
You know, it's not outside the realm of possibility of like things like people are always getting turned into stuff in Greek mythology. Like,
yeah, not forever. It's just temporary. Something like a little snafu. But she turns into a beagle.
Fantastic. Well,
maybe get her a little sweater, you know.
Yeah, so we'll see you next week for 16 and 17. A grand old time. And then we've got like 3 more to do.
I know.
It's gone. I can't say it's gone fast because it's gonna be 8 weeks by the time we're done, but
over a month. Yeah,
be like 2 months. Like, we're not gonna be done till the end of February. Oh, also, you have to pick a politics book for me to read.
Oh, I have one. I know it. Well,
you do. Okay.
I haven't read it yet, so we can kind of do it together.
Book club. Hey, thanks for listening. If you want more of our unhinged selves, you can find us on Instagram, the social media formerly known as Twitter, and now TikTok at DemigodDebutPod. You'll find me there posting memes and other fun little things while Julie avoids social media because spoilers. You can also email us at demigoddebut@gmail.com. Catch you later. Bye!